If you are an alien tuning in, this is a baby. Babies are cute. Only second to this furry master of the human race. But babies have an upper hand when it comes to cuteness. Biology. In a way, we are selected to think that they are adorable. This is why every time you put a baby and a cat together on YouTube, the site falls under its own gravity to create a stable black hole. But what does your baby worth? Economically speaking, that is. Welcome to this episode of The Fabler. In the developed world, that figure is roughly about $250,000. Although we will never be royal, we'll need to head to the Buckingham Palace to break that number down. The Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, is expecting her third baby. So, what would this more soon unhypothetical baby will cost the British taxpayer for a lifetime of private school fees, nannies, butlers and flunkies, state-sponsored travel, limos and expensive clothes, hand-cut french fries, and well, for a supply of unlimited royal jelly? Well, not so much, technically. What should have been some pretty uncomplicated bit of maths is actually a bit harder than it sounds. So bear with me while I overly simplify this. Since 2011, the Queen gets an income voted by the Parliament for her family to fulfill royal duties. This is the sovereign grant. This is meant for things like attending or visiting foreign dignitaries. For the year 2018, the sovereign grant amounts to $120 million, and including all other expenses like security and maintaining the orangery at Kensington Palace, this figure easily climbs up to about $500 million. This is supplemented by her hereditary ownership of Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall and other undisclosed but substantial investment portfolios, including shares, bonds, and other properties such as £10 million trudged away in the Caribbean islands, which was brought to attention by the Paradise Papers. The guesstimates for the Queen's total worth goes for about $1 billion. So each taxpayer pays somewhere around $1 a year to maintain the ever-increasing royal family. And that value does not increase with a royal birth, technically. Some would argue that from an economic perspective, this is brilliant value for money. Consider this, the baby that will mount the British Isles, Prince George Alexander Louis of Cambridge, is projected to generate more than $1 billion worth of economic activity by just being born. This is from expenditures such as people buying champagne to celebrate his birth, to media coverage, to advertisement covering that media coverage. But the most important economic activity of baby George is making other babies. This is where the cute baby videos come in. People tend to get inspired by an event such as a royal birth, and such an event could have a net positive effect on the number of babies born in the country. And the developed world needs babies. Many countries in Europe, as well as many other developed countries, are going through the last stages of demographic transition, where people have fewer and fewer babies. And this is bad. When fertility rate falls below 2.1, a country can no longer keep up its population without a lot of immigration. This is known as sub-replacement fertility rate. 48% or half of the world population has reached this sub-replacement fertility rate. This is a problem for governments. As people live longer and longer and the active workforce decreases, countries face a dilemma of more mouths to feed and fewer people making that food. And this is why China recently reversed its one-child policy in hopes of keeping up its workforce to complete its demographic transition. But although governments think that babies are a good idea, citizens think it's a bad idea. This creates a paradox. As countries develop, they tend to have fewer and fewer babies, despite what the economist Thomas Malthus theorized in the 19th century that with higher incomes, populations will increase. There are many complex interactions of reasons as to why populations are decreasing and why this paradox exists. Like the average cost of child upbringing going up, the invention of contraception, changes in social expectation, urbanization, frequency of sexual intercourse to a long list of criteria I'm happily going to skip. To sum up, babies, good for the overall economy, bad for the personal economy. So, if you can add even a single baby to your country would have gained one more potential worker who would add value to that economy and increase the consumption of that country. So, cuter the royal babies are, greater the consumption of that country. You're welcome. Wait, so what is the worth of a baby? Now, of course, that depends on who the baby is. Famous babies technically are more valuable, like Prince George. So let me introduce you to the economic principle of willingness to pay. A very handy tool to calculate something or someone's worth in this case from society's perspective. Let's take a simple example. You, the customer, wants to calculate how much a car is worth. You can of course ask the manufacturer and let the free market decide it for you. But if you change the car to an abstract commodity like the wilderness of the Yellowstone Park, there's not enough free market to decide that for us. One way to do this is to put a ticket counter at the entrance of the park and ask everyone who enters how much money, time, and energy they're willing to pay at most to see the awesomeness of the park. Multiply that by the number of potential visits and you have a crude idea of what the park is worth to us mortals. And I'm sure you can already see the holes in this method, but it is a useful tool for economists in scenarios such as this. So in this case, the amount of money the parents or the parent is willing to pay could be observed by looking at how much somebody is already paying to raise a kid these days. On average, a baby born today will cost a US citizen around $250,000 before he or she turns 18. And this figure is about the same as in the UK. And around 4 million babies are born in the US every year. That's about $1 trillion worth of economic commitment from US parents to the economic engine every single year. That is great news, for the US at least. So there you have it, $250,000. That's roughly what your baby is worth in the developed world. Now go do your country a service and like and subscribe for great economic karma. I'll see you next time.